Introduction. My name is Emily Harper, and if you're listening to this, then somehow, against all odds, I survived. At least, that's what I tell myself. Because even now, 3 years later, there are nights when I wake up gasping for air, convinced that I can still hear those voices. Sometimes I swear I can hear them whispering my name. Softly. Patiently. As if they've never stopped waiting for me. Maybe that's why I've decided to record all of this. Not because I expect anyone to believe me. Honestly, if someone had told me this story a few years ago, I would have laughed. I would have called them crazy. I would have told them to get help. But I know what I saw. And I know what happened. Or at least, I think I do. My name is Emily Harper. I'm 31 years old now. I live alone in a small apartment in Portland. I work from home. I rarely go out. I don't have many friends anymore. And I never answer calls from unknown numbers. Not after what happened. Not after Ravenswood. You see, 3 years ago, I was just an ordinary woman trying to survive. I wasn't brave. I wasn't adventurous. I wasn't looking for mystery. I wasn't searching for ghosts. I was searching for rent money, that's all. I had bills piling up, student loans, credit card debt. And after losing my job, everything in my life started falling apart. Slowly at first, then all at once. I remember sitting on the floor of my apartment surrounded by unopened envelopes, past due notices, final warnings, electric bills. I remember crying over things that seemed so small. A broken coffee machine, an empty refrigerator, the fact that I couldn't even afford takeout anymore. I remember feeling embarrassed, ashamed, like I had somehow failed at being an adult. And maybe that's why I said yes. Maybe that's why I ignored every warning sign. Because desperation changes people. When you're drowning, you don't ask if the hand reaching toward you belongs to a friend. You just grab it. And that's exactly what I did. It started with an email. Just an ordinary email. Or at least, that's what I thought. No one could have convinced me that one message, one simple message sitting quietly inside my inbox, would destroy everything I thought I knew about reality. I had never heard the name before. Ravenswood. No website, no social media, no reviews, no history. Nothing. But somehow, they knew me. And what's even stranger, it felt like they'd been waiting specifically for me. I should have deleted the email. I should have blocked the number. I should have stayed in Seattle and struggled like everyone else. Instead, I packed my bags, and I boarded a bus. I thought I was heading toward a new beginning. I had no idea. I was heading toward a town that didn't exist. And if you think that's the strangest part of this story, believe me, we're just getting started. Because the truth is, leaving Ravenswood wasn't the hardest thing I ever did. The hardest part was realizing that maybe I never really left. And sometimes, late at night, when the world becomes quiet, I still hear someone knocking. 3 slow knocks. Knock. 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 And every single time, I make the same mistake. I hold my breath, and I pray that when I open my eyes, there won't be writing on the window again, because the last message they left me still keeps me awake. It said, "Emily, we're waiting." And I think they still are.
White. No, not here. Another knock. Knock, knock, knock. And then, Walter's voice. Soft, gentle, almost grandfatherly. Sarah. May I come in? Sarah stopped breathing. No. She grabbed my hand, her fingers ice cold, and for the first time since I'd met her, I saw genuine panic. Emily. You need to understand something. What? Her eyes were filled with tears. They don't let people leave. My blood ran cold. What do you mean? She looked at me, not with fear, not with sadness, but with pity. The others tried. The first Emily, the second, the third, the fourth. the 5th, the 6th. They all tried. And every single one of them. Knock, knock, knock. Walter's voice interrupted her. Sarah. His tone remained pleasant, but somehow it sounded wrong. As much as I enjoy your company, Miss Harper has work to do. Sarah began shaking violently, and then she whispered something that made my heart stop. Emily, whatever happens, don't look outside tonight. Another knock. Knock, knock, knock. And then, Walter laughed, softly, patiently, as though he already knew that sooner or later, everyone looks. Chapter 7. What walks outside at midnight? I didn't go home immediately after leaving Sarah. I couldn't. My mind was spinning. Nothing made sense anymore. Sarah claimed she was 59 years old. She said I wasn't the first Emily. She said people couldn't leave. And worst of all, she was terrified of Walter. Not annoyed, not uncomfortable, terrified. I spent the rest of the afternoon wandering through Ravenswood, trying to convince myself that there had to be an explanation. Maybe Sarah was mentally ill. Maybe this town had some kind of cult. Maybe I was being manipulated. Anything made more sense than believing what she said. But the longer I walked, the stranger things became. Everyone smiled. Everyone. Too much. Too perfectly. An old woman watering flowers stopped and waved. Good afternoon, Emily. A mailman tipped his hat. Beautiful day, isn't it? A little girl skipped past me. See you tonight. I stopped. Tonight? But she was already gone, and somehow, her smile looked wrong, not creepy, not evil, just empty. By sunset, people started disappearing from the streets. Shops closed, windows shut, lights turned on inside houses. By 8 o'clock, the town was almost empty, and by 10, it looked abandoned. I sat alone in my living room. The photograph from 1983 lay on the coffee table. Next to it, a kitchen knife. Ridiculous. What was I going to do? Stab a ghost? I laughed nervously, then looked at my watch. 11:37 p.m. 23 minutes. I remembered Sarah's words. Don't look outside tonight. Easy enough. I wouldn't. I closed the curtains, locked every door, made tea, turned on the television. Static. No channels. Perfect. I grabbed my phone. No signal. Again. 11:58 p.m. My heartbeat accelerated. 2 minutes. Nothing happened. 11:59 p.m. Then, darkness. Every light in town went out. The television died. The refrigerator stopped humming. Everything. At once, and then, the voice. Soft. Calm. Beautiful. Citizens of Ravenswood, please remain indoors until sunrise. I froze. There it was again. Not coming from outside, not coming from speakers. It sounded everywhere. Inside the walls, inside my head. Then silence. Complete silence. And somehow, that silence felt alive. I stared at the curtains. Don't look, just don't look, you'll be fine. Then knock, knock, knock. My blood froze, not the front door. The window, second floor. Again, I squeezed my eyes shut. No, no, no. Another knock, 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 knock. Something scraped against the glass. Slowly. Very slowly. As if fingers were dragging across it. Tears formed in my eyes. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. Then I heard voices. Outside, hundreds of them, whispering. Not loudly, softly, like distant conversations, but all saying the same thing. Emily. Emily? Emily? I covered my ears. No. Go away. But curiosity? Curiosity is cruel. And human beings are weak. I stood, walked toward the curtain, and stopped. My hand trembled. Don't look. Sarah said don't look. Don't. I opened the curtain and screamed. People, hundreds of people standing perfectly still in the street. Men, women, children, old people, everyone, all facing upward, toward the sky, not moving, not blinking, just standing, like statues. My breathing stopped, and among them, Walter, standing in the middle, holding his umbrella, his head tilted toward the stars, motionless. What the hell? Then,
Walter's head moved, slowly, very slowly, until his eyes met mine. My blood turned to ice because he was too far away, at least 100 feet, yet somehow he had seen me. And then every head moved at once, hundreds of heads, turning toward my window. Children, old women, teenagers, everyone, and every single person smiled. My legs gave out. No? No, no, no. They were all looking directly at me. And then Walter spoke, though he stood far away. I heard his voice clearly as if he were beside me. Emily. His smile widened. You looked. Tears streamed down my face. No. You weren't supposed to. And then everyone smiled wider, too wide. Their mouths stretched unnaturally. Their eyes never blinked. And together, in perfect harmony, the entire town spoke. One voice, hundreds of mouths. Same words. Come outside. I stumbled backward. No! The voices grew softer, kinder, almost loving. Come home, Emily. Come outside. We've missed you. Then someone knocked behind me. 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. Not the window, my bedroom door. I froze. Impossible. I lived alone. Knock, 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 cha, knock. Something was inside the house. And then I heard Walter's voice from the other side of my bedroom door, soft, gentle, patient. Emily. You really shouldn't have looked. I stopped breathing because Walter was still outside, smiling up at me, standing with the others, yet somehow he was also inside my house. And then the doorknob began to turn. Chapter 8. Beneath the church. The doorknob moved, slowly, almost playfully. Click. My entire body froze. I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream, couldn't even blink. Walter's voice came again, soft, gentle, patient. Emily, you really shouldn't have looked. Tears streamed down my face. No, 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 this wasn't possible. Walter was outside. I'd just seen him, standing in the street, smiling with everyone else. Yet somehow, he was behind my bedroom door. Click. The doorknob turned again, and then bang! Someone slammed into the front door downstairs. I nearly jumped. Another bang, then a voice. Emily! Sarah, open the window! My head snapped toward the street. She stood below my house, frantically waving, and unlike the others, she wasn't smiling. She looked terrified. Emily! Now! Behind me. Click! The bedroom door slowly opened, just an inch. Darkness. Nothing inside, but I could hear breathing. Someone, or something, was standing there, watching. I screamed, grabbed my coat and ran, straight toward the window. Without thinking, I climbed onto the roof above the porch and jumped. Pain exploded through my ankle, but Sarah caught me before I fell. Run! What about run behind us? The front door opened, and Walter stepped outside, still smiling, still holding his umbrella. Yet somehow, he no longer looked old. Not really. His movements were too smooth, too perfect, almost artificial. Sarah. His voice echoed through the empty street. Bring her back? Sarah grabbed my hand, and we ran. The town was still filled with people. Hundreds of them, standing motionless, smiling, watching. But as we ran past them, their heads followed us. Slowly, one after another, children, mothers, old men, dogs. Even the birds sitting on telephone wires turned toward us, watching, always watching. They're awake, Sarah cried. What are they? No time, Walter's voice echoed behind us. Sarah. Disappointment filled his tone. You know this won't work. We turned the corner, and I froze because Walter stood there, smiling, in front of us. Impossible. I looked behind. Another Walter stood there too. Umbrella. Smile. Same clothes, same face. What the hell? Don't look at them, Sarah shouted. Just run! We ran between the houses, and somehow, the Walters disappeared, but their voices remained. Sarah, come home. Bring Emily home. My ears rang. I wanted to scream, but Sarah pulled me forward, toward the church. the oldest building in Ravenswood, towering above everything else. Moonlight illuminated its stained glass windows, and strangely, none of the smiling townspeople came near it. They simply watched, standing silently, waiting. Sarah pushed the heavy doors open, then slammed them shut. The silence inside was overwhelming. Candles flickered, dust floated through the air, and for the first time since arriving in Ravenswood, I felt something strange. Peace. What is this place? Sarah collapsed onto a pew. The only place they hate. They. The Watchers. I stared. You keep saying that. What are they? Sarah shook her head. I don't know. No one does. They were here before the town. Before Walter. Before me. Before you. I sat beside her. What is Walter? Her face turned pale. I don't know. But he's not human. A chill ran down my spine. No. I've seen him die. What? Her eyes filled with tears. The first time was in 2004. He fell from the clock tower. They buried him. 3 days later, he came back. My blood ran cold. The same smile. The same umbrella. The same voice. I stared at her. Sarah, how long have you been here? She laughed softly. A broken laugh. I don't know anymore. 30 years? 40? I stopped counting. Silence. Then I whispered, Can we leave? Sarah looked at me, and for a moment, hope appeared in her eyes. Maybe. What do you mean, maybe? There's a tunnel. Under the church. No one talks about it. No one remembers it. But I do. Why? Because they tried to erase me. Her voice trembled. And they failed. Outside. 3 slow knocks echoed through the church doors. Knock, 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 Walter. Sarah. His voice was warm, patient. Open the door. Sarah froze. No. Another knock. Sarah, you've done this before. My heart stopped. Done this before? Sarah looked terrified. Don't listen. Walter chuckled. Oh, Sarah. You always forget. You always try to save her. You always fail. Tears filled Sarah's eyes. No. No, no. Walter's voice softened. This is the 7th time. My blood turned to ice. 7th? The 7th Emily. The photograph. The others. Everything. And then Walter whispered something that made Sarah break down crying. The first one begged too. Silence. Sarah buried her face in her hands. No. No! I grabbed her shoulders. Sarah. What first one? She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face, and whispered, Emily, you've died here before. My world stopped. What? Outside. Walter smiled. And through the church doors, I heard hundreds of voices speaking together. One voice. One mind. One impossible chorus. Come home, Emily. And beneath the church floor, something knocked back. Knock, knock, knock. Something was inside the tunnel.
Chapter 6. The 7th Emily. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a minute. The photograph sat on my kitchen table, and no matter how many times I looked at it, nothing changed. The woman still had my face, my eyes, my smile, and written on the back, my name, Emily Harper, impossible. I checked the picture a dozen times. Maybe it was fake, maybe someone had altered it, but the paper felt old. The ink had faded naturally, and somehow, deep down, something terrified me even more. Not the photograph itself, but the strange feeling that I'd seen it before. No, that wasn't possible. I had never been to Ravenswood. I knew that, didn't I? I looked at my reflection in the window. Long brown hair, green eyes, silver moon necklace, the exact same necklace the woman wore. I touched it instinctively. My mother gave it to me when I turned 16. At least, that's what I remembered. But suddenly, a thought entered my mind. Had she? I frowned. Of course she had, hadn't she? Then why couldn't I remember that day clearly? I shook my head. No, no, this place was messing with me. I needed answers. And there was only one person who seemed genuinely afraid. Sarah. Morning arrived. Everything looked normal again. The birds sang, people smiled, children rode bicycles, flowers bloomed, the same perfect town, the same perfect smiles. I found Sarah inside the bookstore. The moment she saw me, her face turned pale. Oh no. We need to stop meeting like this. I sat down immediately. I found a photograph. Her eyes widened. What photograph? 1983. With Walter. And me. The color drained from her face. No. And my name was written on the back. Sarah closed her eyes, as if she already knew. No. Sarah. What do you know? Tears appeared in her eyes. Nothing. Don't lie to me. Several people looked toward us. Immediately, Sarah forced a smile. Oh, silly me, she laughed. Then she stood. Come with me. She led me into the stockroom behind the bookstore. As soon as the door closed, her smile vanished. You found it. You knew? Sarah nodded slowly. I hoped you wouldn't. What is happening? She looked terrified. I don't know. Liar. I swear. You know something. Her voice trembled. I remember things. What things? She looked toward the door, then whispered, You. I froze. What? I remember you. No, you don't. Yes. No. Emily. Her eyes filled with tears. I remember every single one. Every single one. Those words made my stomach twist. What are you talking about? She covered her mouth. The first Emily. The second Emily. The third. The fourth. The fifth. The sixth. And now, she looked directly at me. The seventh. The room went silent. I laughed nervously. Okay. Very funny. Sarah wasn't laughing. I've seen this before. Seen what? You. No. Someone who looked like me. No. You. That's impossible. Sarah nodded. I know. Then explain. I can't. Why not? Because they listen. Her voice cracked. They always listen. Who? Sarah stared toward the ceiling and whispered one word. The Watchers. A chill ran down my spine. The Watchers? They don't like questions. They don't like memories. They don't like people remembering. I frowned. What are you talking about? Sarah sat down, her hands shaking. Do you know what year I am? What? How old do I look? 28, maybe. Sarah smiled sadly. I'm 59. I laughed, then stopped, because she wasn't joking. No. Yes. No way. I arrived here in 1995. My blood froze. What? I was 28. Just like now. And I've never aged. I stared at her. No. No, that's impossible. Do you know what else is impossible? Her voice became softer. I don't remember my parents. What? I don't remember where I was born. I don't remember my childhood. Most of my memories are gone. But I remember you. She pointed at me.
Who's there? Silence, then. A voice. Soft, gentle, almost amused. You weren't supposed to find that. I nearly screamed. Walter stood at the end of the aisle, smiling, holding his umbrella. I hadn't heard the door open. I hadn't heard footsteps. Nothing. He simply appeared. His eyes settled on the photograph in my trembling hands, and for the first time, his smile didn't reach his eyes. They looked empty. Completely empty. Curiosity can be dangerous, Emily. I swallowed hard. This picture. How is this possible? Walter slowly approached, one step, then another. The past can be confusing. Who is she? His smile widened. Someone very special. Why is my name written here? Walter stopped, only a few feet away. And somehow, the room felt colder. Tell me, Emily. He tilted his head. Are you absolutely certain you've never been here before? I stared at him. What kind of question is that? He chuckled softly. Then his eyes moved toward the silver moon necklace around my neck. And for the first time since meeting him, I saw sadness in his face. Not anger. Not fear. Sadness. As if he had experienced this conversation before. Many times. Too many times. Then he smiled again, and whatever emotion I had seen vanished. Go home, Emily. It's almost sunset. And you know the rules? I stepped backward. I don't know any rules. Walter's smile widened. Oh. You will. Then he looked at the photograph one last time, and whispered something so quietly. I almost didn't hear it. The seventh one always asks the same questions. My blood ran cold. The seventh what? But Walter was already walking away, and just before disappearing into the darkness between the shelves, he stopped, without turning around, and said, By the way, Emily, Sarah wasn't supposed to remember. Then he vanished, leaving me alone, holding a photograph that should not exist, and wondering who exactly had smiled beside Walter in 1983. Because if that woman wasn't me, then why did she have my name? And why did she have my face? That's odd, I whispered. Even tiny towns had history. But Ravenswood? It was as if the past simply didn't exist. I climbed a ladder and reached for a dusty box hidden on the top shelf. The label had faded. Archives. Summer Festival. 1983. Curious, I opened it. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Town gatherings, birthday parties, Christmas celebrations, everyone smiling, always smiling. I smiled to myself. Maybe I'd finally found something interesting. Then I froze. My eyes locked onto one photograph. And suddenly, the room felt cold. No. My hands began shaking. There. Standing in the center of the picture was Walter. Exactly as he looked now. Same face, same smile, same gray hair, same coat. Not older, not younger. Exactly the same. I laughed nervously. Impossible. The photograph was dated June 14th, 1983. 43 years ago. Walter would have been impossible. I looked closer, and that's when my heart stopped. Standing beside him was a young woman. Long brown hair, green eyes, white sweater, a silver moon necklace. My necklace. No, not similar. The same necklace. The woman was smiling, standing beside Walter, and she looked exactly like me. I dropped the photograph. My breathing became shallow. No. I picked it up again. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe it was someone who merely resembled me. But then I saw handwriting on the back. My blood froze. Written in black ink. Summer Festival. June 14th, 1983. Walter Graves, Sarah Collins, Emily Harper. I stumbled backward. No. I was born in 1998. How could my name be on a photograph from 1983? This wasn't possible. None of it was possible. Suddenly, the lights flickered. I jumped. The room went dark. Then bright again. Dark. Bright. Dark. And in the silence, I heard footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Behind me. I turned around. Nobody. But the footsteps continued. Closer. Closer. Until they stopped right behind me. I spun around. Still nobody. My heart pounded. Chapter 5. The photograph. I couldn't move. Walter stood at the end of the alley, smiling beneath his umbrella. The strange thing was, it wasn't raining, yet he carried that umbrella everywhere. And somehow, I'd never seen him without it. Sarah. His voice was calm, gentle, almost grandfatherly. I believe Miss Harper has responsibilities at the archives. Sarah lowered her eyes immediately. Of course, Walter. Her voice had changed. Gone was the terrified woman from a moment ago. Now she sounded obedient, like a child afraid of disappointing a parent. Walter smiled warmly. Good. Then he looked at me. And Emily? Yes. Don't work too hard. We've waited a long time for you. My smile disappeared. We? But Walter simply chuckled. Oh, everyone in Ravenswood. He tipped his hat and walked away. Still smiling. Always smiling. The moment he disappeared around the corner, Sarah grabbed my arm again. You need to stop asking questions. What? Please. Her voice trembled. You're attracting attention. What does that mean? Tears filled her eyes. I can't explain. Not here. Then where? She shook her head. There is no safe place. Then she walked away, leaving me standing alone. By evening, I convinced myself I was overreacting. Maybe Sarah had some kind of trauma. Maybe Walter was just eccentric. Maybe small towns were simply weird. I repeated those thoughts over and over. Because the alternative? The alternative terrified me. Back at the archives, I buried myself in work. Shelves stretched from floor to ceiling. Old books, newspapers, town records. Everything smelled like dust and history. It was peaceful, quiet, normal. Exactly what I needed. Until I noticed something strange. Most documents only went back about 40 years. Anything older was missing. No records before the 1980s. No birth certificates, no census information, nothing.
Good. Then he left, and somehow, the entire bookstore felt lighter, as if everyone had been holding their breath. Sarah stood up immediately. We have to go. What? Now. Outside, she practically dragged me into an alley behind the bookstore. Sarah, what's going on? She looked around repeatedly, checking every corner, every window, every rooftop. They watch. Who? Her eyes filled with tears. The town. What are you talking about? Emily, have you noticed something strange? I thought about it. Everyone knowing my name, the message on the window, the announcement, Walter, his smile, and the strange way everyone acted. I don't know. Sarah grabbed my shoulders. Listen carefully. If someone smiles at you, smile back. If they wave, wave back. If they say everything is fine, you say everything is fine. What? And whatever happens, she started crying. Never ask questions after dark. I stared at her. Sarah, are you okay? Her voice cracked. People disappear. What? They disappear. Who? People. What people? Her lips trembled. Visitors. My blood ran cold. What visitors? She looked directly into my eyes. People like you. Silence. The world around me seemed to stop. What do you mean, people like me? Sarah opened her mouth, but suddenly, her face changed. She looked terrified. Not at me, behind me. Slowly, I turned around. Walter stood at the end of the alley, smiling, holding his umbrella, and although he was 30 feet away, I could hear his voice clearly. Sarah, he smiled. I believe Miss Harper has work to do. Sarah froze, and for the first time since meeting her, I saw genuine terror in someone's eyes. Not fear of ghosts, not fear of death, fear of Walter.
Chapter 4. Sarah's warning? No. No, no, no. Not again. The woman stared at me as if she'd just seen something impossible. Her eyes widened. Tears filled them instantly. And before I could say another word, she grabbed my wrist. Hard. What year did you say? I blinked. 2026. She stared at me. Not at my face, not at my eyes, but at something deeper, something only she could see. Oh, God, she whispered. Then she looked around the cafe. Every person inside seemed normal. People drinking coffee, reading newspapers, talking quietly, but suddenly, her expression changed. Fear. Pure fear. She immediately released my hand and forced a smile. A fake smile. So sorry, she laughed nervously. I'm just having a weird day. I frowned. You sure? Before she could answer, an elderly couple walked past us. Both smiled. Too perfectly. Too identically. And the woman beside me instantly went silent, as if someone had flipped a switch inside her. "Coffee?" she asked cheerfully. The change in her voice startled me. "What?" "Coffee. Can I get you one?" I stared at her. A second ago, she looked terrified. Now she sounded completely normal. What was going on? I forced a smile. "Sure." 10 minutes later, we sat near the bookstore window. She introduced herself. "My name's Sarah." "I'm Emily." "I know." Her answer caught me off guard. "You know me?" Sarah froze, then laughed awkwardly. "A small town. Everyone knows everyone." I had heard those exact words before. Walter said the same thing, and somehow, hearing them again made my stomach turn. Sarah looked around before leaning closer. "You just arrived, right?" "Yesterday." Her eyes widened. "Yesterday." She whispered those words almost to herself. Then she suddenly asked, "Have you heard the announcement yet?" I nearly spilled my coffee. "Last night." Her hand tightened around her cup. "And?" "And someone knocked on my window." Sarah stopped breathing, literally, for 2 or 3 seconds. She simply stared, then whispered, "What did they write?" I felt chills run down my spine. "How do you know there was writing?" Sarah looked horrified. "What did it say?" "Don't trust them." The cup slipped from her hand. Coffee spilled across the table. People nearby looked over. Sarah quickly smiled. "Oh, silly me." Everyone immediately went back to what they were doing. But Sarah? Sarah looked like she was about to cry. "You saw it." I nodded. "Who wrote it?" Her voice trembled. "Emily. You have to listen to me." "For what?" She leaned closer. So close I could hear her breathing. "Never. Ever. Open your window after midnight." I frowned. "Why?" "Because if they know you can hear them." She stopped. Her eyes shifted toward the entrance. Someone had entered the bookstore. Walter. Still smiling. Still calm. Still carrying that umbrella. Sarah's face went white. Completely white. And suddenly, her personality changed again. "Oh, Walter," she said cheerfully. "What a pleasant surprise." Walter smiled. "Sarah." Then he looked at me. "Emily." His voice sounded warm. Too warm. "I hope she's treating you well." Sarah laughed. "Oh, we're just talking about books." Walter nodded. "Wonderful." His eyes moved towards Sarah, for only a second. But I noticed it. And Sarah noticed it too. Fear. Not respect. Not nervousness. Fear. The kind of fear people have when they know something terrible can happen. Walter smiled again. "Emily, your first week is important. We wouldn't want you exhausting yourself." He glanced at Sarah. "And we certainly wouldn't want anyone confusing you." Sarah lowered her eyes immediately. "Of course." Walter's smile widened. Ravenswood Historical Archives stood near the center of town. The building looked beautiful. Old bricks, large windows, thousands of books, dusty records. Exactly the kind of place I imagined. Inside, the smell of old paper instantly relaxed me. For the first time in weeks, I felt happy. Maybe I really had overreacted. Maybe Walter was right. Maybe stress had finally gotten to me. I spent hours organizing documents and old newspapers. The work was easy, peaceful, until lunchtime. I decided to grab coffee from a small bookstore cafe across the street. That's where I met her, the woman who changed everything. She looked around my age, long brown hair, kind eyes, and unlike everyone else in Ravenswood, she didn't smile immediately. Instead, she stared at me, as if she'd seen a ghost. I smiled awkwardly. "Hi." She dropped the book in her hands. "Oh my God." Her face turned pale. "No." I frowned. "Are you okay?" She whispered something under her breath, then looked directly into my eyes and asked a question that sent chills down my spine. "What year is it?" I laughed nervously. 2026. The color drained from her face, and tears suddenly appeared in her eyes. No, 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 not again. Chapter 3. Midnight Announcement. I froze. My heart nearly stopped. 3 knocks, slow, deliberate, knock, knock, knock. I sat upright in bed, staring toward the window across the room. For a second, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't even think. Because my bedroom was on the 2nd floor. There was no balcony, no tree nearby, no fire escape, nothing. Just empty air outside. Yet someone, or something, had knocked on my window. I stared at the curtains, waiting, praying I'd hear footsteps, or laughter, anything. Nothing came. The entire town remained silent. No cars, no dogs barking, no television, nothing. Just silence. And somehow, that frightened me more. I slowly reached for my phone. 11:59 p.m. No signal. Of course, the lights had gone out. The Wi-Fi wasn't working either, and outside, darkness covered everything. I swallowed hard. Get a grip, Emily. Maybe a bird hit the glass. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe, knock, knock, knock. This time I screamed. I practically fell out of bed, and my hands were shaking. What the hell? I stared at the curtains. Whoever or whatever was out there was still there. I don't know why. Curiosity? Stupidity? But I slowly stepped closer, 1 foot after another. My pulse pounded inside my ears. The room felt colder. I reached out, grabbed the curtain, and pulled it open. Nothing, nobody, no face, no person, no ladder, no explanation. Just darkness. I exhaled. "See?" I whispered nervously. "You're just tired." Then I noticed something. Words. Written on the glass. My blood froze. 3 words. "Don't trust them." I stepped backward. No. My breathing quickened. Someone had written those words from outside. But how? I touched the glass. Still cold. Fresh. The letters were dripping slightly. Not blood. Condensation. Like someone had traced the words with their finger, suddenly. The voice returned. Soft and calm, echoing somewhere outside. "Citizens of Ravenswood, please remain indoors until sunrise." I looked toward the street. Nothing. No speakers. No police cars. Nothing. Yet the voice sounded close. Almost inside my head. Then silence returned. And somehow, I managed to convince myself that I was simply exhausted. I wiped the message off the window, locked my bedroom door, and spent the rest of the night sitting against the wall with a kitchen knife beside me. I didn't sleep. Not even for a minute. Morning came slowly. Sunlight poured through the curtains. Birds chirped. And for a moment, everything felt normal again. I almost laughed at myself. "You're losing it, Emily." I walked downstairs, made coffee, and stared out the kitchen window. People walked through town as if nothing had happened. A couple walked their dog, children rode bicycles. An old woman watered flowers. Normal, completely normal, too normal. Around 8 o'clock, there was a knock on my front door. I nearly jumped. But this knock sounded ordinary. Human? I opened the door. Walter stood outside, smiling. "Good morning, Emily." He held a basket filled with bread and fruit. "A welcome gift." I forced a smile. "Thanks." "You slept well?" Something inside me hesitated. Should I tell him? Would I sound crazy? Eventually, I laughed nervously. "Actually, something weird happened last night." Walter tilted his head. "Oh." I heard knocking. His smile never changed. Knocking. On my window? The 2nd floor window. And someone wrote something on the glass. Walter remained silent. Not surprised, not confused, just smiling. "What did it say?" he asked gently. I swallowed. Don't trust them. His eyes narrowed slightly. Only for a second. Then he smiled again. Dreams can feel very real. Especially in unfamiliar places. Perhaps you're homesick. I know what I saw. Of course you do. His voice remained calm, but something about his eyes. Something felt wrong. He handed me the basket. You should enjoy your first day at the archives. And one more thing. What? His smile widened. Never open the window after midnight. I blinked. What? He chuckled. It's just an old tradition. Then he walked away. Still smiling. Always smiling, and somehow. That smile bothered me more than the message on the glass. Chapter 2. Arrival in Ravenswood. The bus ride lasted 6 hours. At least I think it did. The truth is, I slept through most of it. The rain tapping against the window made me drowsy, and after weeks of stress and sleepless nights, exhaustion finally caught up with me. When I woke up, something felt wrong. The highway was gone. Outside my window, nothing but trees, miles and miles of forest, no gas stations, no signs, no houses, just endless woods. I checked my phone. No signal. Perfect. I sighed. Probably just a rural town, nothing unusual. Eventually, the bus slowed down, then stopped. I looked outside. There was no station, no building, no people, nothing. The driver opened the door. We're here. I frowned. Where? Ravenswood. I stepped outside. Cold air hit my face, and before I could ask another question, the bus drove away. Just like that. I stood there alone, my suitcase beside me, surrounded by silence. Then I heard a voice behind me. Emily Harper? I jumped. An elderly man stood a few feet away, gray hair, kind smile, dark coat. He held an umbrella. I'm Walter. He extended his hand. Welcome to Ravenswood. I forced a smile. Thanks. I wasn't expecting. I stopped. Where had he come from? I hadn't heard footsteps, and there hadn't been anyone there a second ago. Maybe I was tired. That had to be it. Walter picked up my suitcase. You must be exhausted. The archives are ready for you. The whole town is excited. I laughed. Excited? Why? He smiled. You'll see. We walked down a narrow road, and suddenly, the trees opened. I froze. The town was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Victorian houses lined the streets. Flowers bloomed everywhere. People walked slowly, smiling. Children played outside. Streetlights glowed warmly despite the cloudy sky. It looked like something out of an old painting. And everyone smiled at me. A young woman exiting a bakery waved. Welcome, Emily. An old man sitting on a bench tipped his hat. Good to see you again. Again? I frowned. Another woman smiled. We've missed you? Missed me? I looked at Walter. Do they know me? He chuckled. Oh, everyone knows everyone in Ravenswood. But I've never been here. Walter's smile widened. Haven't you? Something about the way he said it sent chills down my spine. But then he laughed, and I convinced myself I was imagining things. We reached a 2-story house near the archives. This will be your home. I stared in disbelief. It was beautiful. A white porch, large windows, fresh flowers, bigger than any place I'd ever lived. No rent? I asked. Walter smiled. No rent? No bills. No worries. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Maybe things really were getting better. Maybe this was exactly what I needed. Maybe life was finally giving me a second chance. I spent the rest of the afternoon unpacking. Everyone I met was unbelievably kind. Too kind. Almost rehearsed. And as the sun began to set, I noticed something strange. People started heading home, quickly. Shops closed, streets emptied. By 9 o'clock, the town looked abandoned. I checked my watch. 9:30, 10, 10:30. Silence. Then, at exactly midnight, every light in town went out. At once. Darkness swallowed Ravenswood, and through the silence, a voice echoed from somewhere outside. Calm, gentle, almost soothing. Citizens of Ravenswood, please remain indoors until sunrise. My blood ran cold. I sat upright in bed. What the hell? And then 3 slow knocks echoed against my bedroom window. Knock, knock, knock. I froze, because my room was on the 2nd floor, and nobody should have been outside my window. Chapter 1. The offer. 3 years ago, my life fell apart. Not in some dramatic movie-like way. There wasn't a tragic accident. Nobody died. Nobody left me. Life just slowly collapsed. And somehow that felt worse. Because when something breaks all at once, at least you know what happened. But when it falls apart piece by piece, you spend every day wondering if tomorrow will finally be the day things get better. And for me, tomorrow never came. I was 28 years old and living in a tiny apartment in Seattle. My marketing job had been the only stable thing in my life, until one Tuesday morning. I still remember my manager avoiding eye contact. I remember the uncomfortable silence in the meeting room. And I remember hearing words that changed everything. Emily, this isn't personal. It never is, I said quietly. We're downsizing. I forced a smile, but inside I already knew. I was being fired. By noon, I was carrying a cardboard box containing 3 years of my life, a coffee mug, 2 notebooks, a framed picture of my parents, and a plant I forgot to water most of the time. Nobody knew what to say. Some co-workers hugged me. Others avoided looking at me. I smiled. I thanked everyone. And the moment I got inside my car, I burst into tears. Not because I loved my job, but because I had no backup plan. No savings. No boyfriend. No family nearby. Nothing. Just bills. Endless bills. For 2 months, I searched everywhere. Hundreds of applications, dozens of interviews. Nothing. Every rejection email felt like another nail in the coffin. Eventually, I stopped opening them. I couldn't, not anymore. One rainy evening, I sat on the kitchen floor with a blanket wrapped around me. My refrigerator was almost empty. The power bill sat unopened on the table, and my landlord had already left 2 messages. I stared at my laptop. $37. That was all I had left. $37. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because crying felt exhausting. Then my phone buzzed. Another rejection email, I thought, but it wasn't. Subject: Employment opportunity. Ravenswood Historical Archives. I frowned. I didn't remember applying there. Curious, I opened the email. Dear Emily Harper, we are pleased to offer you the position of archivist at Ravenswood Historical Archives. Housing provided. Transportation allowance included. Salary: $95,000 annually. Please contact us at your earliest convenience. We look forward to welcoming you home. Home? I blinked. That was strange. Maybe they meant welcome aboard. Still, $95,000? For an archivist? No experience required? Something felt off. I searched the company online, nothing. No website, no reviews, no social media, nothing. That's weird, I whispered. I almost deleted it. Almost. But desperation is louder than caution. And I was desperate. The email included a phone number. I called. It rang once. A woman answered immediately. Ravenswood Historical Archives. Her voice sounded cheerful. Almost too cheerful. Hi. My name is Emily Harper. There was silence. Then she laughed softly. Oh, Miss Harper. We've been expecting you. Something about those words made me uncomfortable. Sorry. Expecting me? Of course. We were wondering when you'd call. I sat upright. How did you... Do you accept the position? I hesitated. What exactly is Ravenswood? Another brief silence. A beautiful place. And you'll love it here? I smiled awkwardly. Where is it? We'll send transportation details. That wasn't an answer. Still. $95,000. Housing included, no rent, no debt, and a fresh start. Maybe I was overthinking. Okay, I said. I accept. The woman sounded delighted. Wonderful. We'll see you tomorrow, Emily. Click. The line disconnected. Tomorrow? I stared at my phone. Tomorrow. Nobody starts a job tomorrow. I checked my inbox again. Another email had arrived. Bus ticket attached. Departure, 9 a.m. Destination, Ravenswood. I didn't sleep that night. Something inside me whispered not to go, but another voice, the louder voice, reminded me that I had $37 left, and desperate people don't get to be picky. By sunrise, my bags were packed, and I had no idea that I was about to disappear from the world.